Hi, guys, and welcome to the Wise Woman podcast. It's so good to be back for another episode today. I am excited. And I know I say this every week, but I promise you, I'm super excited for today's podcast. I've got a wonderful guest who'll be joining us shortly. And today we're talking about health matters and women over 40. Don't let the makeup fool you. We are in that age bracket. So my guest is going to educate us on all the things we need to know about aging gracefully and all the things and all the changes our body goes through. I'm going to bring her up in a second, but kindly help me like, subscribe, and share today's podcast. It could be a blessing to somebody. In fact, I know it will be. Don't just send it to the women in your group, send it to the men as well. They may have some things that they don't know. I think this is very informative for every member of the family. So it's your girlfriends, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, absolutely everyone. I'm going to bring up Dr. Anie in a second to introduce herself and we'll get straight in. So yeah, today it's going to be really insightful. Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, keep sending me your testimonies. I get messages all the time about how these podcasts are blessing them and things that people are talking about. Here it's really just to enlighten you. And we are faith-based. So God wants you to have wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. The more you know, the more you can make more informed decisions. Jesus did not die for you to remain ignorant, okay? So with that said, I'm going to bring up Dr. Anie. She's an amazing woman. I love her so much. She's such a wonderful sister. Anie, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. I'm so blessed and so excited to be on this
Thank
podcast with you,
you.
Esther. Thanks for
You're so
inviting me.
graceful. Oh, thank you. You're so graceful. So
I
stunning,
appreciate it.
graceful, inside and out. So good to have you join us today.
Thank
So
you.
as you know, we are a faith-based platform platform.
Yeah.
So let our audience know a little bit more about you. How did you come to faith? How did you get to know God? What was your faith journey like?
So my family have always been faith-based. So my late father was a minister.
Oh
He
wow,
was,
you're a
yeah,
pastor's
so
kid.
yeah, exactly, one of those. Yeah. So we were always raised around the church, so it's very familiar to me. But I think when I became sort of my late teens and early 20s,
Mm,
when you start to have life for your own and then you have your own personal experiences, I think that's
yeah.
when I really felt my relationship with God strengthen.
Mm,
Because the things that your parents don't know or things they don't understand, but when you have that relationship with God, you know that you can go to Him on your own. You don't have to go
yeah.
through mum or dad. So yeah, it's
The
always been
prayers of
there.
your parents. Yeah, I always
Yeah,
say we don't realize how much their prayers guide us
yeah,
because when we're
yeah,
young, it's our parents' God. But as you get older, He
yes.
starts to say, "Listen, I'm your God as well," and He finds us, finds a way of drawing us in. So it's so good to have you on the
Exactly.
platform tonight. I'm so grateful.
Thank
And being a
you.
doctor, what happened? How did you feel the calling to become a doctor? Tell us a little bit about your career and about yourself.
So I've been a GP for about 10 years,
Wow.
and I've always wanted to be a doctor. I remember in school biology was my favorite subject. I love learning about the body,
Mm.
how it works, learning about when it
Yeah.
goes wrong. So I knew I always wanted to do something like that. And then I started medical school, and I love the fact that in GP land you get to follow the patient throughout. When I was in the
Okay.
hospital, I always wondered what happened when they got home, and I wanted to know the full story. And
Mm.
it's a blessed position to be a GP because you get to know the whole family, and you get
Yeah.
to know things that maybe other people don't know. And if you have that trust with your patient, so I really
Mm.
I love that aspect of general practice.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't like blood. I don't like sickness.
Yeah, that's a big issue about being a doctor. Yeah.
I'm one of those people, it takes me a lot to go to even just to go to my doctor, it takes a lot.
Oh,
I'd have to be on
really?
the verge. Yeah, I'm not the kind of person
Oh,
that the first sign of something, I always try and self-medicate first. I'll either take
okay,
herbs or get
okay,
medication. Last resort is the doctor
okay.
for me.
The
And I
doctor.
don't think that's a good thing.
No,
I don't think
Esther,
that's a
no.
good thing. Fortunately, I haven't had anything drastic happen to me. The only
Thank
time I
God.
went to
Thank God.
hospital was
Yeah.
my own doing. I had some
Okay.
leftover KFC that I
Uh,
ate the following morning, and I got to work and I just threw up everywhere. I
oh
think
no.
it got down
Yeah.
to the liquid in my stomach. It was food
Wow.
poisoning. Took
Wow.
me out for about 2 days, but that was the first and last time. And I remember being in the ambulance, and I remember them taking my pulse. Oh, she's got a great pulse, and I was like, what are they
You
talking?
felt awful.
Yeah, it's a high pulse. I'm a personal trainer. This was over 20 years ago, by the way. When I used
Oh,
to be mad about fitness, yeah. So,
oh,
so
really? Okay.
yeah, but God's been great. I must say, when it comes to my health, I've There is a line. There is we have high blood pressure in our family, so
Yeah,
had moments where I've had to kind of really watch my
yeah.
blood. Are things like that hereditary, like high blood pressure,
It
diabetes?
can be, yeah. So it can run in families, high blood pressure, diabetes. So what you can have is a tendency to that. It's not predictive. It doesn't mean
Mm,
you'll definitely get it. But what it probably means is that you may have to work harder than somebody who doesn't have it in their family. So you have to be more
yeah,
intentional about what you eat, your choices, be intentional about
yeah,
exercise, particularly as we get older, as this talk is about being 40 and over, you really have
yeah.
to put it in the forefront of your mind that I'm going to be intentional about doing these things to
Mm.
maintain my health.
God, it's scary because I think when you're young, you take your health for
Mhm.
granted. I used to eat like loads of fried
100%.
food, go
Yeah,
to McDonald's all the time, but I think obviously I used to be a PT years ago, so I have always had a consciousness of okay, be healthy, be healthy, be
yeah,
healthy. But nonetheless, especially our community, our diet's not the best, right?
yeah. You know
Some of
what?
the
You say that it's not the best, but I think back to if you think about what our diet is in terms of its base, we tend to have a lot of vegetables. We do tend to have
yeah,
a lot of that, and actually, if we stuck to that more, yes, reduce the oil. I think that's a good thing,
yeah.
and I think
It's our cooking methods.
it's our
Yeah,
cooking
yeah,
method. It's the thing, our
yeah,
cooking method. Less oil, our swallow, maybe not so large,
yeah.
and also swapping the swallow types to oat base as opposed to high starch.
Mm.
So, I don't think we should get rid of our cultural foods
Our
because
staple foods.
yeah, 100%. It's just
Yeah,
adapting it to be healthier.
amazing. So let's jump into the bulk of today's talk. We're talking about health matters and women over 40. And I think people don't really understand. They say life begins at 40, but what happens to health when a woman gets to 40? What are some of the things that we can expect and kind of look out for at that age,
So
including like sleep?
as women, I think the big thing is our hormonal changes. So women, the
Mm,
main hormone that we have is estrogen. And when we're young, we have high levels of estrogen. And estrogen is really important for our whole body, from our hair to our skin to our
mm,
bones, to so many aspects. And then once you get to 40 and over, you have fluctuations in your hormones. Your
yeah.
estrogen levels go up and down, and then you can feel that in your body yourself. So women often describe feeling hot flushes or feeling hot or
Oh,
sweating at night. And it is really related to these fluctuations in your hormones. You can have
mm,
other things like hair thinning. A lot of women over the age of 40 start to experience hair thinning,
yeah.
changes in the way your skin looks, the way it feels, the elasticity of your skin. That can
Wow.
also change. And even the shape of your body can change. So we tend to, they call it where the middle part of our body can become wider and, it
Yeah.
become
With the
harder
midlife
to.
spread or something,
That's
they
it.
call
Yeah,
it.
literally that. And so you think back to
Yeah,
your 20s where you could eat whatever and actually your stomach could still look snatched. And then when you get to
yeah.
over 40, it's really not the same. So yeah, those are the sort of the main changes that happen.
I guess it's the body being a machine,
Yeah.
and you tend to forget that it's gonna have wear and tear like a
Yeah.
car or any other engine. So even before we hit 40, what are some of that? Because I know some of my views like late 20s, 30s. How can we start preparing? Because we know that okay, by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna have a lot of hormonal changes. What are
Mhm.
some of the things we can do early to kind of help that process and just kind of keep the
Yeah.
body healthy for as long as possible?
So one of the big things that happens with women is a change in our bone density. So women are more likely to be at risk of osteoporosis, which is a thinning of the bones. And so you're more at risk of having fractures from very minor, trauma. And
Yeah,
so what women can do in their 20s is doing weight-based exercise, actually. It doesn't have to be heavy weights, but even
yeah,
small, 2.5, 3 kilogram weights. And what that does is help to improve your bone density. So you're increasing your bone density so that by the time you get to 40 and it's reducing, you already have a higher starting point already.
advantage. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's so important. So doing that, so regular exercise is really important for us and helps to maintain our muscle mass because over
Yeah.
40, the muscle mass also starts to come down as well. I would say pelvic floor exercises, particularly as women who've had children, it's so
Mhm.
important. It's hard because you're juggling so much when you've had a baby. So often you're at the bottom of the list of things to do. But if we think
Yeah.
about trying to prioritize that is really important. Pelvic floor exercises, even if you haven't had
Mm.
a baby, just trying to keep everything maintained so that when you get
Impact.
to, yeah, exactly. So that when you get to 40 and things start going awry, you've got a higher starting point. So that's really important.
That's phenomenal. I will share. So I'm currently in the process of having my eggs frozen, and
Okay.
yeah, because no women having kids later, and girl,
Yeah, so true.
it just got to that. So the doctor told me I had to do a blood test and a blood sample. They did said I'm anemic. That I have
Mm,
really, and I didn't know this. So I was
yeah.
constantly tired. I
Mhm.
would be running around. So I didn't even think that I realized until they had a look at my blood. They said, "Yeah, you really need to get a lot of iron in
Yeah.
your blood and things like that." Yeah. So what are some of the things we can just? I mean, even as I mentioned, even going to the doctor for me, it's really difficult. How can we learn to just
Yeah.
get
You
and
know,
check
we're
it for telltale signs?
Yeah, we're really blessed in this country that we have a national health service where you can access
Mm.
free healthcare and you can request blood tests. You don't have to pay for them, And
Oh wow.
actually, it's so important. We're blessed to have that. And I encourage all
Mhm.
women, certainly over the age of 35, to go to your GP and say, look, I just want to have a MOT check. I want to check my kidneys, my liver.
Mm.
I just want to make sure I'm not anemic because sometimes you don't know until it's too late. Or, you go through
Yeah.
these tiredness and you think, oh, it's just life. I just keep pushing through, whereas there could be something that you could have done to help. And a
Yeah.
lot of us women, particularly black women, we can suffer with fibroids, heavy periods, and this is a
Mm.
drain on the system, on the body actually. So if you have heavy periods, you become slowly anemic, and actually being anemic is a stress on the heart, it's a stress on your whole body. Yeah,
Really?
so it's really not a good thing to maintain over a long period of time.
Right.
If imagine a car is running with like thin fuel, mostly
Mm.
water, not enough fuel. So, how will that work for the rest of the body? So it's important. Women
Mm.
are 35 and above, you can ask your GP for a blood test. The NHS actually has something called the NHS Health Check that they offer to everybody, male and female, from the age of 40. And they do that because they recognize that this is around the age then things can change. So men have
Yeah.
they can do their own health checks. Women, we get invited to do our checks, and particularly important to do things like your smear. So you're invited regularly for the smear. That's really, really
They
important for us
still
to do.
need to do that, like as you get older, and is it every 5 years?
So yeah, every 3 years until you get to
Every
49, and then every 5 years. Yeah.
I don't think I've had one for a while. I'm just going to the doctor. I
Yes,
don't think I've had
you
one.
do. And again, we're
Oh,
lucky. It's free and it's so,
yeah,
and it's so important because you can pick up really early signs before anything becomes serious and get it treated
yeah.
really, really quickly. And all women need to do it.
And look at the womb, or is it sexually related, or in what way? What are the
So,
factors you look for around that?
so we think that the purpose of the smear is to pick up abnormal cells before they
Yeah,
become into cancer, cervical cancer, cancer of the
yeah.
cervix. So we think that the link is with something called the HPV virus. So
Right.
this HPV virus is transmitted sexually. You only need to have intercourse once, and you could catch that virus. And so we think the
Mm.
presence of that virus causes like an irritation on the cervix, which can then
Ah,
start to produce these abnormal cells. And the process can take years. Abnormal cells, and they change and they change and they become cancerous. So the purpose
yeah.
of me is to pick up. So what they actually tend to do now is check for the presence of HPV. If you have
Right.
HPV, then you go on to check for cells, abnormal cells, and then they go from there. So it's really, really important to get it
This is
done.
why we need all this information. Yeah, I had no idea that it was kind of. I just thought it was just a general kind of health check. I never thought about, oh, maybe the cells were mutating themselves, or what was
Yeah,
the factors
exactly. Yeah,
affecting
yeah.
things like that.
Hmm.
It's a lot. And you mentioned periods. So I have a cousin. She was literally knocked out for like 3 days. She just had really heavy periods. She has
Uh-huh.
lots of clumping and just
Yeah,
cramps and stuff like that. When is it time? She doesn't go to the hospital. She's just accepted that that's
uh,
normal. Like, what is a normal? Because a lot of people don't know they're actually suffering. They just think
yeah.
it's. So, what's a normal period length, period cycle? And when is it time to actually get help and say, okay,
Yeah.
something's wrong? When is it time to actually do that?
So we think, every woman's menstrual cycle is different, but we think about what we
Mhm.
accept as normal. We would expect that your cycle should be regular. So you tend to have one period around the same time every month. And the flow of your period varies. But what we tend to think about as heavy is if you have flooding, so from on off the pad onto the underwear, or if you have
Right.
clots, that is considered as a heavy period, actually. So if you're having that, it's already heavy. And also the impact on your life. If you have to take time off work because of your period, that is completely unacceptable in terms of how your periods are. That's not normal. You need to,
Right.
seek a health professional. And periods
Yeah.
can be painful, but if your period pain starts a few days before your actual bleeding starts, it could be signs of
Yeah.
something called endometriosis, which is really, really
Oh,
important to find out and check, particularly if you're young and not had any children, because endometriosis that isn't detected and not treated can lead to fibrosis. So that's inflammation within the womb, and that can impact your fertility later on. So it's so
wow.
important that you get these things checked so that you can have the intervention that you need and don't limit your options later on in life.
Yeah, I love that. And I know we're focusing on over thoughts, but I think it's also important to kind of think about what's normal health before, so you can get an idea of how that's going to
Yeah,
change as you get older and
exactly.
things like that. So a lot of people don't even realize that they can do things now to
Hmm.
prevent kind of things going downhill. Oh, don't use that word downhill. I know God made our body. God, thank you.
Wear and tear.
Yeah. So in terms of women's vitamins, what are some of the key things that we should be? I take a general vitamin, but in terms of women's vitamins, what are some of the key things that we can kind of focus on?
Yeah, so I think a general vitamin is good, like an A to Z is good. It covers all the bases. But the important ones are vitamin D. It's really, really important for us. As Black people, all people will make vitamin D through our skin. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't get a lot of actual sunlight. There's a lot of overcast, and
Yeah.
it's often cold, so we're wrapped up, so we don't have a lot of skin exposure to the sunlight. So
Yeah.
vitamin D is really important. I advise people to use between 1,000 and 2,000 units a day. So you can get that from
Okay.
any chemist, and that's a really good dose. And vitamin
Yeah.
D is important for our skin, for our bones, for our muscle health. So that's one thing. I would also suggest for some women experiencing sort of breast tenderness, breast pain, particularly around their periods. So some women find using things like evening primrose oil can be helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear
you
about
can-
that.
yes, you can get that from sort of over the counter, and those are
Yeah.
key. And then I think just things related to general health. And actually, it's important to try to get our nutrition from food. Vitamins should be in
Mm.
addition. So eating well, thinking about a plant-based diet. I know as Nigerians, we like to cook our food to death at times. So
Okay.
try, yeah. So try to maintain, try having things, some raw salads and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all those sorts of things are really important. So I think it's a
Do you,
balance, hydration.
do you promote? I try and, it's funny because the older I get, the less meat I find myself eating. And I know biblically the Lord talks about there's nothing that we can't eat, there's nothing
Yeah.
off the table. And God talks about, in Genesis, talks about the plants and everything I've given you is on the ground.
Yeah.
So people tend to, why do we frown on eating fruits and vegetables? And,
I don't know. Yeah, because
it's
I like
medicine, it's
it's
food medicine.
medicine.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even a lot of our modern medicine, it was extracted from plants, from plant extracts,
Mm,
so I think nature and God has blessed us with that, has a lot of answers, and God has given those things. He didn't give us, processed food. He gave us a
yeah.
natural things, and there's a reason for that.
On the extreme side, how do we balance faith and medicine? So I know there are a lot of people who potentially won't see a doctor, who
Mm.
potentially won't get help. I'm not in that extreme. I do take time, but it's not because I don't believe in it. I'm just, I always think that I'll be fine. I'm just quite
Yeah,
optimistic.
yeah,
But where could people balance their faith and actually getting medical help? And I personally believe that doctors are from God to help us. But what about people who struggle and they think that if I go and see a doctor, then that means I don't trust God to heal me or things like
yeah.
that? How can we kind of balance all those thoughts and those ideals that people struggle with?
I mean, I understand where people are coming from, but I'm a Christian myself, and I'm also a doctor, and I face that myself. But I think it's important to realize that God has made us as beings of body, mind,
Yeah.
soul, and spirit. Just as we would go to our
Mm,
pastor or to church to get that spiritual and fulfillment and those sorts of things. I think it's
yeah.
important to understand that your body also has needs, and there's nothing wrong with seeing a medical professional if we feel that there are changes in our body. It doesn't mean that your
Yeah.
faith is reduced. It doesn't mean that you don't
Mm,
trust God, but God has empowered people to have different skills, doctors, nurses, engineers, and everybody has a role. And I think as long as
Mm.
you put God first in terms of the medicine I'm taking, I believe God will give it to me, and I won't have side effects. It will do the thing that it's supposed to do. It
Yeah,
won't give me any negative effects. So you can have
yeah.
prayer in that way, and I think that's really important.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think for me, there's nothing wrong with going to a doctor. In the Bible, they call it a physician.
Yeah.
I think just at least to get diagnosed, at least to find out
Yeah.
if something wrong. And however you want to tackle that situation, I think
Yeah.
get as much medical help
Information.
as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's at the point where the doctors can't do anything, and there are times when God wants to show himself, and I think he'll
Yeah.
tell you that. And I think you have to be at a place where you're open to however God wants to heal you, right?
100%. I've had
I'll give
stories
you.
where patients has been told, there's no hope. It's not going to happen.
Mm,
And God can work miracles. I think God shows himself
yeah.
where, the doctors have said no, but I'll show you that it is possible. And I
Yeah.
think that is an amazing thing to see. I see it in my own practice as well. So I think it's important to have that balance.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think it helps. I think for me, it just helps us understand that God has given us a portion of his wisdom. And I say to
Mhm.
people, and then the reason I think God gave me the Wise Women podcast, because he gave us wisdom for everyday life. Like
Yeah.
just use your wisdom first and foremost.
Hmm.
Anything that's outside or beyond your control, he's there. Like he can step
Exactly.
in, he can add the supernatural, but don't throw away the wisdom
The
he's given
wisdom
us
is
for
given.
medicine.
Exactly.
Yeah, the wisdom
Yeah.
he's given us for healthy eating, the
Yeah.
wisdom he's given us for taking care of yourself. Like do those things first. And if it gets to the point where, okay, Lord, I'm going to need some supernatural healing. And I think
Super help.
honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, God's there to help us and he will speak. He
Hmm.
will speak in however he wants to glorify himself. Just moving on a little bit about emotional, kind of like mood. I know some moody older women. What is going on? Like, how does
Don't
all
blame
of
them.
this?
Don't blame them.
It is our. I often put it down as them just being moany people. They're just not happy, are they? So, but how much is our emotional health
Yeah.
related to kind of medicine or our physical health or hormones? I generally tend to separate the two, but how
Mm.
much is it kind
There's,
of?
there's a
Is there
big
studies?
connection, a huge connection, particularly with women. So even before we get to the age of 40, there are some women who have what we call premenstrual tension. So before their periods come, they have massive mood changes, and it can be really debilitating for some women. And that's really
Mm,
related to hormonal changes. And so it's really, really important to acknowledge that. And that can be out of a woman's control, physical control. And then when you
yeah.
get to 40 and perimenopause, you have even more fluctuations with these estrogen levels. And I guess if you think about the fact that if you're feeling hot all the time and sweaty all the time, that can be uncomfortable. So your irritability may be
Mm,
increased because of that. And then if you're
yeah.
having less sleep because of these issues, again, that has a knock-on effect. And then you can have mood changes. You can be more snappy, and I
Mm,
guess it's for women and also their partners, their husbands, to understand that it's not necessarily against you. It's these changes that they're having to navigate, as well as probably a parent, working, juggling so many things around that age. Yeah.
yeah. No, you're right. Because there's a lot, as you mentioned, with body, soul, and spirit. And I
Mm.
definitely think we're interconnected. But I always thought that you can control your moods. But now that you mentioned it, I haven't had much sleep and I'm irritable.
But this is the thing. I think as long as I call it being self-aware. So
Yeah.
even in my job, before I start seeing patients, I know if I haven't had a lot of sleep, I know, okay, I'm aware that I haven't had a lot of sleep. So you sort of, you're maybe more cautious with how you approach things, knowing that, okay, maybe my tolerance level is not as good. I think it's important to be aware of how you're feeling at this time and how it might
Yeah.
impact your day.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And around 40, actually, just before you get to that, sex drive and
Mm.
babies and things like that. When is a good time physiologically, if that's even a word, do you think? I know people say the younger you are, because I started my period at 10, so I can imagine having a baby at 10.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like my body kind of developed very, I hit puberty early.
Mm.
So for me, and I said to myself, God, my body is saying one thing, my minds and emotions are completely
Different.
disconnected. And the only conversation my mum said to me, don't go near boys, or that was it. That
But
was the whole
that's it. You
conversation.
get that until you're not supposed to go near boys until you finish all your education. So that's university. And then the next day is, where's your husband? I'm like, God,
Yeah, the day
how
after you
would I?
graduate, I'm like, you told me my whole life
So
to
how would
stay
I?
away from boys. And now I'm just meant to bring a guy in. Like the day
Just
after,
like that.
didn't somebody talk to you at school? No, I was reading my books. You told me
Like
not to
you
talk to
told
me.
me. Exactly.
So what are the cycles, like what are the stages of a woman's kind of sexual health in terms of when her body starts to get ready for bearing children? How does that kind of affect? Because I always say to my mother that your libido is kind of linked to your body's needs to procreate. God has like put it in the body to want to
Mm,
procreate. So that's all kind
yeah,
of connected. And then I have friends who say, I don't like sleeping with my husband. I don't like having sex. Like I hear, and then one girl's like, oh my God, it's amazing. And it's just so
very.
dramatic. I
Yeah.
know people are different. So in terms of our journey and when we're hitting 40 and how that kind of changed, what does normal or average should look like? And what should people experience? And how does that
Yeah.
kind of change over time?
I think it really varies between woman to woman. I think,
Yeah.
libido and sex drive is impacted by so many things. It can be impacted
Mm.
by your relationship with your partner, for example, if there's
Mm.
arguments and disagreements. And I think as us as women, we tend to be more sensitive to that. And it can also be impacted
Mm.
by just life. If you're busy juggling work, kids, you have so many what we call in your mind, you have so many things to do. It can be hard to switch off. So
Yeah.
that's important. But I think also libido in terms of, around 40 is again, to have intercourse, there needs to be sufficient lubrication, for example. And actually,
Mm.
when some women are going through perimenopause, there's vaginal dryness. And so that is actually physically
Mm.
uncomfortable. So if you know that it's
Wow.
uncomfortable, now to preempt it, you're already thinking, I don't want to because it's going to be uncomfortable. And so it goes like
Yeah.
this. So it's these different aspects as
Wow.
well that affect. Yeah.
So after the 40, the body's like, I'm done.
Every woman, not for every woman, but I say that there's fluctuations. Some women they have no changes and they're fine, and but I think it's
Yeah.
just for women. If you're going through this, you're not alone. It is part of the norm of what happens with the body changes, and I guess it's just speaking with your husband and saying, look, this is what I'm going through. This is what would help. And actually going to your GP, I have women that come to me and say it's actually painful and uncomfortable. So we talk about
Wow.
types of lubrication. We can talk
Yeah.
about estrogen that you would be put in the vaginal area just to help with that
Mm.
process. And for some women, it can be really life changing because it means that it helps their relationship as well, because then their partner knows or their husband knows it's not uncomfortable. And so that
Yeah.
can help them.
Yeah. Being able to communicate the change, like it's just a
Oh,
physical change that's going on. And
exactly. Not necessarily directed at you. It's just something that
yeah,
I'm going
don't
through as
take it
well.
personally.
Yeah.
What about the other women? Because there are women that hit later, once women's sexual peak, and they suddenly realize, hold on, my sexual drive has gone through the roof. Like,
Yeah,
what's going on
some women
there?
it goes the other way, and they're like, and I think that maybe that could come with maybe around 40, your kids are a lot older, maybe, you may
Yeah.
have some sort of more freedom, maybe career-wise, where
A
you
new
want to
zeal to
be.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
sometimes feel like, this is me, I'm embracing myself, and you get that sort of freedom,
Mm.
and with that can become, sexually you can feel more free and at ease, and so women can, they can soar in those times.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And our in terms of our social health as well, in terms of kind of just not kind of keeping yourself to yourself, your mental health, your
Yeah.
emotional health, all those things. How can we kind of help factor all those things in? Because health is all around us, right? We've got our mental, our emotional, and
Yeah.
our physical health. And what can we do to kind of just engage more and just not kind of keep yourself. I think I get as I get older, I keep myself to myself. And I'm
Yeah.
consciously saying to myself, I need to socialize more. I need to get out more. I need to do more,
Yeah.
engage in life.
It's important. God made us. That's why, God made Eve for Adam. It's not good for us to be alone. It's important for us to
Mm,
be together with people. And so you have to be intentional and you have to,
yeah.
make effort and see friends. And actually, as we get older, sometimes our friendship group becomes smaller for various reasons. People move,
Yeah.
everybody's life is busy. So I myself, we have a WhatsApp group with our friends and we communicate there regularly.
Mm,
And if we can't all meet up together, okay, I'll meet up with you. And we try to make an effort to meet up with with people, because it's so, so important. And if you're really isolated, some women can't leave the home for whatever reason, physical reasons, then we're blessed for having, the internet and podcasts like this. So reaching out, even through social media, is important as well.
I love that. And I know we have a great church in terms of community and people kind of coming. And what about the support, things like that? And what about women that are on their own? You might not have children, you might not have and we have the I love the fact that we actually have a mental health group at church. A lot of African churches don't have that. They don't have actually discussing mental health. People can come forward and be a part of that. How can we encourage more of that, especially individuals, to not feel shame, to not feel like, oh, it's a taboo, and to kind of discuss those things? What can we kind of say to look
big
up?
Thing. Yeah, because you said about shame and taboo, and it is a huge thing, and it's going to take time to overcome that. I think podcasts like this and just having lots of awareness and keep talking about it is important. And I'm so happy that our church is doing that mental health support group, just to encourage people that just because you're struggling, it doesn't mean your faith is reduced. It doesn't mean you're not trusting God. Just because you say, I'm finding this hard, it doesn't take away from God's power to help you. But I think we all come to churches, we want to be together, we want to see each other. And in the same way, we can all support each other. And so I think reaching out to people who are in that area, mental health nurses, doctors who can support you. And actually, it might be a simple thing, Liz. I'm not sure how to access this in the community. Somebody else in the church may know that, and linking people together. That's really important.
I love that. And as you're speaking, I'm just thinking in terms of what would be for someone at this point, they haven't taken their health seriously. They find themselves either in their late 30s, getting ready to hit 40, or they're having early symptoms of things changing, and they're not really doctors like me. How can someone start a good health plan? Where would you start? Say, okay, I'm getting older, I need to make some changes. What are some of the practical things that someone can actually do and say, I need to start taking my health more seriously? And we're used to eating certain things, fried foods, and I know we need to start incorporating change, but how do we get from 1 to 10 and really get to the point where you're taking your health seriously?
Change one thing. So, for example, it might be, I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to buy one of those water bottles that tells me how much I've had in a day, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make sure that I start with that change. And then once you start that, okay, what's the next thing? I'll do that for a week. Okay, what am I going to add? Okay, the next thing I'm going to add is, I'm going to be intentional about my vegetables. So I'm going to make sure that I have some vegetables with every main meal to see if that helps. But I think it's changing one thing at a time, because it can be overwhelming when you see, I've got so many things to change. And so sometimes you just feel, I can't do it because it's too much. So one thing at a time, slowly. If I'm feeling tired all the time, okay, what time do I go to bed? Am I on my phone scrolling for an hour? Do I really need to do that? Can I, stop, read my Bible, and then just switch off? I'm going to try that for a week and just make it step by step.
I love that, Annie. You're just like, your stuff. I love that, and I love the fact that we're just learning from all of this, and I want the women to feel like, get connected with your body, know your body.
100%.
Individual. I feel like I know my body pretty well. Whenever I feel like something's changing, like I tend to fast. The minute I feel like I feel clogged up, I just stop eating. I literally stop eating for about a day or two. I just like going fruits and vegetables and water, and you instantly just feel your body just you feel better. I feel lighter. People are constantly bloated. They think it's normal. Like, they don't look out for key signs of health, that you don't need to eat to the point where you're full and you've got gas and you're bloated. People think this is normal. They don't know what it feels like to be light. And what are some of the things we just kind of accept? Like, people have headaches all the time, and we don't look for signs that our body is trying to tell us, I need a break, I need a cleanse, I need a detox.
100%. And our body, does tell us things, So for example, I have some patients who'll come and say, I'd like to have a blood test to check if I'm, I don't know, gluten intolerant, for example. Okay, so what are the symptoms you're having? And actually, it's not that they're gluten intolerant per se, it's just they're having too much. They're having bread all the time. And they've already said, if I have less bread, I feel better. I said, okay, so your body's telling you something. Listen to your body. You don't have to have a blood test to tell that. If you have less brain,
Mm,
you're less bloated, and you have more water, you feel better. So these are the key things, listening to your body. If I have a headache all the time, why is that? I'm having a lot of screen time. Have I had my eyes tested recently? Am I drinking enough
mm.
water? Am I stressed? You start to think about, okay, what is happening here? And if actually you can't figure it out, everything is in place as you would expect, it's really important to go see the doctor as well in those situations.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, you've been amazing. Is there anything else you want to add, or just feel that our listeners should really take on board and this journey of however long I'm going to sound really morbid. We never can control when we're going to go and be with the Lord and things like that. But what
No.
can we kind of focus on in terms of our stewardship to our bodies, our
Yeah.
stewardship? When I say health is stewardship, I say that if you honor God by taking care of your temple, I say it to people: do your
100%.
best to not
100%.
abuse your
Yeah.
body.
What God is
I know the Bible
giving.
talks about you'll get a new body. How
Hmm.
can people start to think from a faith perspective? Actually, it's important for me to
Yeah.
take full responsibility for how I take care of myself physically and
Yeah.
emotionally.
And I think if you have the attitude of every day I wake up, I'm blessed to be awake. Every day I make
Mm,
a walk and talk,
love
it's
that.
a blessing. So actually, let me not abuse this blessing. Let me make the most
Mm,
of the time that I have here. God has put on us here for a purpose. And while we're
yeah,
finding out that purpose or living out that purpose, let's live it out in the best health possible. God wants us to enjoy our life here, not to be a
mm,
suffering. And so there are things that we can do to help ourselves, eating well, trying to sleep well. Yes, there are stresses, and if so, reach
yeah,
out to my neighbor, to my friend, to my pastor. Hey, I'm struggling. I need help. Collectively, how can we help each other? Praying.
love
And
that.
then together, we move forward. We're not meant to be alone. So seek help, seek
Mm,
advice through this podcast. So many things. God has given people in this world blessings and talent. And how will we know if we don't tap in, if we don't speak, if we don't communicate? God, I guess, communicates to us through the Bible, but also through other
yeah,
people. So you have to be connected
yeah,
that way. So I think it's just being open and being blessed to know that I'm here, I'm alive. Let's make the most of it.
yes. I love that. And it's a
Yeah.
blessing to be a woman.
Yeah.
I said to God, if I came back again, not that I believe in reincarnation,
Yeah.
but I want to be
I
a
know
woman.
what you mean. Yeah. As a
I
phrase.
love
Yeah.
being a woman. I love everything. I feel
I
like,
love being a woman. I think it's
yeah,
amazing.
it is. It's the journey is funny because I feel like I've been taken care of. So I say to people,
God knew what he
enjoy.
was doing when he made you a woman, right?
Yeah, like enjoy your femininity. I think some of
Yeah.
us we do so much, and I know it's not easy, and a lot of
Yeah.
single parents and people having to do things on their
Not
own.
by choice. Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to tap into our feminine nature again. I
Yeah.
really think a lot of women just
Yeah.
need to learn to just really take care of yourself. Right? God
100%.
designed you to be loved on, and if there's not a man in
Mm-hmm.
your life who will love on you, right? Allow the
Yeah.
Lord to take care of you.
Yeah.
He will surround you with friends. I have friends that pamper me. I'm just so
Yeah.
spoiled with my family. So I just have this
Nice.
thing in my mind that I just just been spoiled and pampered my whole life. So I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Other kind of, and people live under immense stress. I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
It's true.
Immense stress and
Yeah.
tension, and I find myself saying it's not normal. It's
Yeah.
not normal, right? God
Yeah.
gave us peace. He wants you to have a peaceful environment, a
Yeah.
loving environment. All this takes a toll on our physical health as well. And I actually, talking
100%.
of it, I bumped into a post online, and this guy was saying some of the physical ailments that people experience are actually rooted in things like anger and
Oh,
unforgiveness.
100%. Yeah.
Those strong emotional ties. And I know
Yeah.
women that have been wounded for
Mm-hmm.
years. Maybe they've had
Mm-hmm.
a really bad divorce or something
Mm-hmm.
just kind of really broke them earlier on
Yeah.
in life. And I find it, they may not have hereditary sickness and things like that, but they're constantly just under pressure, tablets, medication. And a lot of it's just rooted in the state of the heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
anger, the depression. You've put your body, you put your mind under tension, and it's
Mm-hmm.
taking it out
Yeah.
on your body,
Yeah.
right? And those things can't be treated in a way. And I know they treat depression, but I often feel that I feel like there's an emotional thing. Those things. How do we walk through those things? How do we kind of let those things go, and then our bodies will kind of just forgive us for allowing ourselves to live?
Yeah.
That I find really difficult, and I say that because when I meet a lot of women who are pent up, a lot of times I
Mm,
find they have a chip on their shoulder. They're just constantly
mm,
angry, constantly
mhm,
sad, and depressed. I'm like, if you just let that go,
mm,
if you just forgive whatever it was, if you
mm.
just learn to move on and just be happy, right?
Yeah,
Find some joy, your body will actually forgive you for like, oh, I'm not under as much pressure, under as
yeah,
much tension. And I think that's where our faith really comes in for us to
mhm,
really look at how when God talks about forgiving others and when God talks about not being angry, not keeping
yeah.
malice, we don't realize the impact that these things have on us physically. It's not just for the other person,
But it's
it's for
more for
you.
us actually, how it impacts
Yeah,
us, 100%.
yeah.
I mean, people can get stress ulcers. We can have stress, and that can
Mm,
actually give you a stomach ulcer and an actual physical manifestation of stress. People can have stress chronically, and then that is shown to increase things like cholesterol and heart disease. So actually, forgiving people is more to help yourself. But I know it's not easy, and particularly if you had lots of trauma through your life, you sort of collect it as
yeah.
time goes on. And if you've never been taught how to deal with that, it can be so hard to let go because that, for some people,
Mm.
can form their identity, and it's hard to let go of that if that's all you've
That's
known.
such a powerful statement because that's something God's been dealing with, been the theme of
Yeah,
last week.
yeah,
Not forming identity around your experience. It's something that happened to
exactly.
you. It's not who
Not
you
you.
are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really powerful thing. And I hope
Yeah, so
someone
just
can actually.
reaching out, and we talk, as GPs, we do see lots of people with depression and anxiety, and yes, there are
Mm,
medication options, but I always advocate talking therapy. You have to let
mm,
whatever it is out. A tablet is not going to do that. So whether that's CBT, whether that's counseling, whatever the problem is, you have to speak it out and speak it with a professional that
mm,
can help you work through whatever it is that you're going through. And it's a process. And I think that's so,
mm,
so important. I guess sometimes we want a quick fix. I don't want to take this and I want to feel better completely, which is not always like that. You have to do the work and be ready for the work.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that, Annie. Thank you so much. It's been such a blessing today.
You're
Any
welcome.
final words from you before we wrap up?
My final word would be take care of yourself, love yourself, reach out if you need help. And yeah, God will be a blessing to you.
Amazing. Is there any way people can connect with you? How can we get more advice, or where can we follow you? Is people going to message me? Where can I connect with Annie? We'll come to
I'm
church
so
first of
glad you
all.
said that. I'm juggling so many things, but I think I'm gonna start an Instagram page just for women's health, women's advice. I know we had a chat about this, Esther. So I will
Amazing.
let Esther know once my handles are up, and
Yeah.
follow me for just more advice and just general chit chat about life and being a
Oh, I
woman.
love that. I can't wait. You've got my
Yeah.
full support. I'll be there.
Oh, thank
All right, my
you.
darling. Can put in agreement for a few seconds. I'm going to cut out the show. So I actually hope you've been taking all that aboard. I love Annie. She's just such a wonderful soul. She's always glowing, and that information, all the information she shared with us, is very, very important. And we did look at, things to expect your body to go through, but in order for you to know it's changed, you need to know what your health is like to start off with, or at least the standard of health you should have. So you can come back and watch this podcast over and over again. And of course, it's not the beginning and end of all the information. If you're in the UK, you can go online, you can go on the NHS website, you can talk to a professional, you can talk to a doctor. If you're feeling any symptoms, please don't be like me, go and see a doctor. Make sure you see a doctor. Take your health seriously. God loves you, He cares about you, and this can save someone's life, right? If you catch symptoms early, you know what you're dealing with. Being in denial doesn't mean that you don't have faith. It's always good to know. Always good to know how God wants to heal you. He can make you a testimony, right? I've had to take medication in times past, and I've also experienced God's supernatural healing. There was a time I couldn't get to a dentist, and I remember my tooth was killing me, and I literally was just in church, and I don't know where I got the faith from. I just prayed, and I just felt literally like electricity hit my tooth. I kid you not, I fell back. I was like, and I just felt God instantly in that moment. No one laid hands on me. I, for myself, reached out to God. I'm an absolute pain, just like that. And I just thought, wow, this faith thing is real. It is real. And there are times when God's like, go to the doctor, right? So it's not a bad thing, okay? And I hope that You've gleaned so much wisdom from Annie's advice. She's a beautiful woman of God. And I'm really excited when her handles come out. I'll be back to share it with you. And we'll probably have her back another time to talk about something else and share more. So, guys, I'll see you next week. We'll have another guest next week, and look out for the flyers and the poster, and be back for the Wise Women podcast. God bless you. Bye.